What's up everybody, Keel423 here, bringing you another video tutorial, this time on a 360E ring-a-light mod. For those of you who have torn apart an Xbox 360E, you can start off right where I'm at. For those of you who haven't, you want to go ahead and watch my teardown video on how to disassemble the Xbox 360E. One thing I noted, and you should note as well, your typical ring-a-light mod right here, or ring-a-light module, and the Xbox 360E actually has no LEDs on it, none whatsoever. They didn't put them on the part that plugs into the console. As you can see, a ribbon cable plugs in here and runs directly off to the faceplate. This module right here is actually your ring-a-light. It's fixed right to the faceplate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pop this brown tab out and remove this ribbon cable and separate the old ring-a-light module from the new. Now, as you can see here, we got several screws holding this ring-a-light module in. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws, all securing this into place. So we're going to just go ahead and take these off here. I'll widen out so you don't have to stare at my hairy knuckles the whole time. I haven't been finding very good guides as far as doing the ring-a-light mod, changing the LEDs out. So I decided to do one myself. As long as I got one in front of me, try and knock it out as quick as possible. Now, being that I hadn't found any good guides, I went ahead and cheated, and I've already had this apart once. I put it back together for the sake of the video, and I went ahead and installed one LED so that I could figure out the continuity. Okay, there we have the ring-a-light module pulled out of the faceplate. Now we can just go ahead and set this faceplate aside, because what we're going to be working with is this chip right here. Now, we're going to want to go on the inside of it, the side that faced the faceplate. And as you can see right here is your actual ring-a-light. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 0603 SOD LEDs, and then you got your middle one. The middle light you can actually use as 0603 as well. This is actually, it slips my mind, the actual number for the LED size and whatnot. But we'll get right into this. Now, on this one here, I already changed the LED to verify continuity, which side's ground, which side's positive. As you can see, they put little arrows on. These arrows actually point in the direction of your negative side, so you got a white line right here. That's going to be negative. So when you put your LED on, you're going to want to make sure your negative side is towards the white line. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and float off these old LEDs, these old green ones. I'm going to put just a little bit of flex paste on each one. Now, typically I use a separate iron for doing the ring-a-light mods on Slims, because they put so many other components close by, but on this one there's really no other components close by that I have to worry about damaging or floating off in the process. So I'm going to just use my standard iron. Oh, let's see here. I hear a little ruckus in the background. I got Kill Jr. running amok. Okay, so this one I already did. I'm going to move on to this one. It's a little bit shaky here because it's so tiny. So So I'm going to add just a little bit of fresh solder to the tip of my iron. Trying to hold this in place so it don't move around. And we're just going to come in at a bit of an angle and heat up this LED. Normally I'd hold it in my hands when I do this. As you can see, the LED just floated right off, leaving the pads perfect, which is what we're going for. Again, apply some solder to the tip of the iron. Come in here at a bit of an angle, heating both sides of the LED at once, and just float it right off. And doing this method, these LEDs are useless. They're going to be sucked into a blob of solder, so if you want to save the LEDs for reuse, I suggest a wedge tip and don't float. You'll have to, it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt, but it is possible to remove the LEDs without damaging them. Now for this last LED, the center one, the power light, I'm going to just take a wire cutter and come in here and snip the top off of the LED itself. The only reason I do that is to make it just a little bit easier to get the solder to flow across it. Turn it sideways. This is probably going to go flying across the room. So you can see I cut the LEDs off, leaving just the copper pads there. This one is a little bit more difficult to do. I'm going to go ahead and add some flux paste. There's 4 contacts that you have to heat up on this in order to get this one to float off. So it's going to take a lot more solder. And when I say a lot, I mean quite a bit. Alright, I'm going to hold this in my hand for this process. And we're just going to float back and forth from side to side. More solder yet. Nope, there it goes. And just lift the LED off like so. Retouch the pads, make sure that they're all good. I sure hope you guys got that. I'll proofread the video later. Now, on this power module, there's no white line to speak of. I haven't tested it, but the arrow points in a direction, and I'm going to assume that this direction, the side closest to the power button, is the negative side. I'll know for sure once I get done installing the LED. But now we're going to move into our replacement LEDs. LEDs come in a strip like so. They can come in long ones, short strips, whatever you ordered. There's a little plastic film on the back. They're extremely cheap. I like to just dump one out at a time because they're also extremely easy to lose. And then I take a pair of tweezers and pick them up. Now, it might be hard for me to show you this, but on the underside, it's probably not going to pick it up. Yeah, let me try widening. See if I can get it in here so that you guys can actually see it. I'll just take it real wide and come in close. On the underside here, you've got an indicator. Come on, baby. Sometimes you just gotta talk dirty to it. Anyway, On the underside you'll have a green line with a little box on the side. The box side indicates the negative side, so that's the side that you're going to want to stick towards the white line. Some LEDs come with a triangle. Just depends on the LED type, where you get them from, and all that good stuff. There's a lot of different ones available. We're going to go ahead and set this bad boy in place here. I'm going to start with this one. It's probably going to be the most complicated one, with the power module, or power button being right there. Just kind of nudge it over. Come on, baby. Really sucks when I get some flux on the tip of my tweezers, and then it gives me trouble with moving the LED around because the LED wants to stick to my tweezers. Yeah, just like that. You stupid thing. Come on now. Okay, I got it pretty well close to in place. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because I have to hold this thing in my hand and use my ginormous thumbnails. I'm telling you, these thumbnails really come in handy for doing stuff like this. Alright, we're going to just kind of hold that LED down in place like so, and just come in and tack the warm side. You'll feel it drop down. Means you got a good bond there. And then we'll come in and hit the other side of it as well. Now if you're like me, I like to come in afterwards. Excuse me. Let me get this set right. After you get it secured in place, I'll come back in and add a little touch of fresh solder to it. Just to ensure that we got a good bond there. Like so. That's one down. Typically it would be 4 to go, but I already did one. Alright, so now we're on to the next LED. I'm using blue, by the way. I don't know if I specified that. And again, I'm just going to dump an LED out on the table here, flip it over, verify continuity side, and we're going to come in here and set it in place. Like so. Give it a little nudge, get it where we need it. It's also a very good idea to keep your iron tip clean. Always use fresh solder, don't use the darkened colored solder that you're going to wind up with at the tip of your iron. Now, let's see if I can do that with this fingernail. Just kind of hold it in place here. I come in and tack the one side down, and come over and tack the other side down. I already had some fresh solder on the tip of my iron, so no need to apply fresh solder again. Alright. Now I've only got one more to do on the outside ring, followed by the main power light. And of course the red dot, which hopefully will never get used. Let me rotate this pig around here, because I am doing this one. Come on. There appears to be a hair of some sort stuck to my tweezers. If you have this thing flip around on you like this, you want to make sure that you take a gander at the bottom when you can. Ensure that you didn't flip it over or anything. Nothing worse than getting it all done and realizing you got the polarity backwards on one. Come on. This has got to be the most difficult part of the install. It's just getting the LEDs set into place. Alright, so I'm going to come in and secure it in place with my thumbnail again. And give it a quick tack on one side. And we'll tack it on the other side. So on here I'm going to go ahead and apply some fresh solder to it. This one got just a little bit crooked on me. Doesn't really matter if they're a little crooked. They'll still work. I like to try and keep them as straight as possible. Okay. Now that we've got that done, we can move on to the ring of light. One thing I screwed up on is I didn't take note of whether the bottom one or the top one is your power light. I'm going to go with the bottom one for now, and we'll see what happens. I plan on putting a red light where the red light needs to be. So, at the end of the video, if I need to correct this, I will. Okay, so I'm going to turn this thing around again because of the way that I happen to pick up my LED. Now you may notice that these pads are a lot bigger than the LED, and it does technically call for a different sized LED here, but the 0603 works just fine. So I'm going to just go ahead and stick with that. Hold the LED in place. Tacking it down. Tack down that side. There you have it. Now, I want to verify the installation of this power light before I move on to the red light of death. Okay, so I just clarified and rectified the situation here. As it turns out, the top one is your actual power light, not the bottom one. So on this curved side here, you want this high one to be your power light. I was correct, the arrow is pointing in the direction of the negative, so your negative side will go on the side towards the power button, but just the power light is the top one. It's got D1 right above it, opposite of the arrow. So this other pad here will actually be our red light of death pad. So I'm going to go ahead and get another LED to throw in there. Okay, so I grabbed another LED here. I'm going to go ahead and get that set in place. Again, the bottom side has a square indicating the negative side. Now this one is going to be our red light of death LED. In my case, I'm out of red, so I'm going to use orange. Doesn't really matter. And just kind of press it down, hold it in place while I tack it on. these big pads, it's pretty easy to get them tacked down. Now that I got them tacked in place, I'm going to come back in here and add just a little bit of solder to each one of these to ensure a good quality bond. There we have it. Now, as per usual, I do this in all my videos because it's important to me, and it should be important to you, especially if you're doing this professionally. Always clean up after yourself. I got some rubbing alcohol and some Q-tips. I'm going to just go through and clean up all the leftover flux residue that we have on the board here. Flux is great for keeping the board cool, the pads cool while you heat the solder. It keeps the solder from drying out, ending up with dry joints or cold solder joints, so may put it. But ultimately, it's very corrosive to the copper pads if left on for an extended period of time. And by extended, I mean, you know, years, but all the same, it's just in good practice to clean up after yourself. Keeps the install looking professional. I know a lot of modders out there say don't open up your console. If you have a problem with it, send it back to me, blah blah blah. Well, I used to be a purchaser as well, and I couldn't help myself. I opened it up. If you're into modding, chances are you're going to open it up. And when you do open it up, it'd feel a lot better for you to see a nice clean area, so it's not terribly obvious as to where the installer was working and all that good stuff. I had a console once, I opened it up and there was no question where they were working because there were still globs of solder or flux all over the place. Every single solder point, not a single attempt to clean up afterwards. And I thought to myself, self, you can do better than that. And I have ever since. Alrighty, now we got that all cleaned up. Next, what we're gonna do is go ahead and we'll take it downstairs, hook it up to the console, and see how it looks. I won't have it actually installed in the faceplate right away, but if we're putting this back together, just make sure that you got this brown tab here flipped up. We'll just insert it like so, and then flip this brown tab back down, locking it in place. Alright, let's go see what it looks like, huh? Okay, I went ahead and just reinstalled the Ring of Light module to the faceplate here. And we're going to go ahead and get it turned on. You can see the blue's coming through quite nicely. And it's pulsing in blue. So it worked out quite well. Of course, the camera does it no justice. It's a much prettier looking blue on my end. Isn't that neat though? No lights. They're all built right into the faceplate. Now, if only there was a way for me to trigger the red light to make sure that works. But anyway, that concludes the Xbox 360E Super Slim Ring of Light mod. This has been Kill423. Have a wonderful day.